Hey guys, this is Deborah, and this is my first attempt at recording a video podcast. This is going to be Diary of a Physicist Farmgal, and this podcast is going to be about life on my farm. I'm also a professor of physics and astronomy, so I may talk a little bit about cool science things, and I hesitate to call myself a maker, but I do knit, crochet, sew, quilt, pretty much do all the crafts, so I may talk a little bit about that. And also, one of my goals is ultimately I want to start a nonprofit about homesteading skills and heritage skills at my farm. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of those things too. I'll talk some about some of the podcasts I like. I may talk about if I get a chance to read a book or listen to an audiobook. Just kind of life in general. So hopefully you'll enjoy it and enjoy the journey with me. I'll kind of give you a little journal of what's going on in the farm every time I podcast, and that's pretty much it. So you can find my farm. It's Buckthorn Farms on Facebook. I will put that in the information about the episode. Also, you can find me on Instagram. It's Doc Firewoman on Instagram. That's also my Ravelry username. I also have a Twitter, but I post a lot of more, that's where I vent all my political opinions, and I'm pretty much a left-leaning liberal. It's not I'm a snowflake, I'm an icicle, because I will stab you. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so if that kind of thing annoys you, maybe it's better for your blood pressure and mine that you just follow me on Instagram. But if you don't mind that sort of stuff, I'm also on Twitter as Doc Firewoman. The name comes from the fact that I have a doctorate, but I also love the song The Firewoman by The Cult. So that's my name. So I'm kind of watching out the window here. I'm in my crafting room. I'm kind of watching out the window because my friend that I buy hay from is supposed to be bringing me some hay. Here in the Arkansas foothills to the Ozarks, I'm just south of the Ozark National Forest. We had pretty much 5 days of rain last week. There was a lot of flooding. There's still some flood warnings on the river. The river, I believe, is still above flood stage. And guess what? It's raining again, and it's going to rain until Thursday morning probably. So he had a chance to get in and get some hay for my cattle, and so he's supposed to be bringing me some hay here just any time. So I'll stop recording and come back if he does that. A little bit about my farm. This is a farm that my family has lived on for 3 generations. My grandparents lived here in the early 1900s, essentially as tenant farmers. They didn't own the property, but there was a community of people that lived here, and they actually raised cotton up here, which is kind of strange. You don't think about cotton being in a mountainous area, but more down in the southern part of the state. But they raised cotton, and they sort of were subsistence farmers. They grew all their own food and raised a lot of what they used and needed. And then in 2005, I essentially bought the farm for my parents because after a few bad years in the cattle industry, they were having some financial issues. So I had the opportunity to buy it and help them out. And, you know, sometimes they say if you make the move, the door opens. And the door opened for me to be able to move home and get a tenure track position at a local university. And luckily now I am tenured, and I'm also promoted to full professor. And I am the first woman to be the full professor of physics and astronomy ever in our department, so I'm pretty proud of that. I have cattle. I tried to raise horses for a while, but the horse market, when the economy went bad, kind of tanked also, so I gave up on raising horses on a large scale. I still raise a few foals every couple years, and mostly I do grass-fed beef. I also raise heritage poultry and show quality rabbits. And the rustling you hear in the background is one of my dogs. Come here, Willie. Oh, you found a toy. Okay, good deal. I live here in the company of 14, yes, you heard me right, 14 dogs, 5 indoor cats, an undetermined number, of outside cats. I have 6 miniature horses, 4 miniature donkeys, 6 standard donkeys, and a miniature mule who thinks she rules the roost. Plus, I also own 6 horses, 3 of which are here and 3 of which are at the training barn where I volunteer in my free time to teach lessons. And I also ride over there frequently. Yeah, so, and in my other free time, I'm a park volunteer at one of our local state parks where I do pretty much anything my friend Sasha asks me to do. I do astronomy programs, or I teach classes about weather or astronomy, or I volunteer. You know, I've done everything from handle the snakes to talk about the water cycle to work in the gardens to make soap. So just whatever Sasha would like for me to do, I try to help her with. And then, as I said, I volunteer at a riding program. It's called the Rainbow Riders. It's run by a very, very dear friend of mine who's essentially adopted me as one of her kids after I lost my parents. And I volunteer over there, or well, not much lately since it's been raining, but usually 3 to 4 days a week. And we have lots of activities for the kids, because learning to be a horse person and not just a rider is really important. It teaches you responsibility. It teaches you empathy for the animals and understanding. And also it gives you confidence, because if you can work with a 1,200-pound animal and have its trust and its confidence, then, you know, life is a little bit easier. So, yeah, so that's pretty much a nutshell. I'll talk more about my farm as time goes by, and I'll have little updates as we go. So, yeah, so let me talk a little bit about what I've been working on lately. Okay, I'm back. There's a spot on my ceiling, apparently, from when I had a leak a long time ago. I put a new roof on the house a few years ago, and so that must have been left over from then, and I just noticed it, but boy, it sticks out. Anyway, I learned to knit in graduate school. I also learned to sew then. My mother was an excellent seamstress and could pretty much sew anything. And she taught me a little bit, but what she gave me was the best advice of go buy some cheap fabric, go buy an inexpensive, simple pattern, and just learn. And she also gave me the Reader's Digest Guide to Sewing. And she wrote something really sweet in it. One day I'll pull it out and read it. But she said, look at this, and it's a really good resource because it has all kinds of techniques explained in it. And this, of course, was before the days of YouTube. So now you can find pretty much anything you want on YouTube. I put knitting down for a lot of years, and I started knitting about 2 years ago again. This year, or within the last probably 6 to 8 months, decided to get more serious about it. I discovered some knitting podcasts and started using Ravelry more seriously. And so I've started trying to be a better knitter. Here's the deal, though. I'm left-handed. So I taught myself to knit out of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Knitting and Crocheting. And yes, there's a lot of left-handed videos out there, but a lot of the patterns and a lot of the instructional information written for things like knit-alongs or patterns are written specifically for right-handed people. So I have to do a little bit of rocket science thinking to sort out these patterns. But anyway, so since this is my first episode, we'll see where this goes. I will show you a few of the things that I've made recently and show you some stuff that I'm working on. So one of the first things that I recently made were these oven mitts. Now, I am a big drag queen fan. I follow 2 or 3 of my very favorite drag queens on all kinds of social media, and Ivy Winters is one of the drag queens that I follow, and she owns a farm in New York. And we got to chatting one day online because I posted a picture of some spiced plum preserves, and she wanted the recipe, so I gave it to her. She started a podcast called Queen Acres, and on it they do various different crafts and make things. They've made laundry soap, they've made oven mitts, they made some flavored liqueurs on the last one, but the very first episode was how to make some oven mitts, and she had a free downloadable pattern. So I thought, well, that looks simple. And so that afternoon, I went to a local big box retailer and found some clearance fabric and decided I would make oven mitts. And what sold me on this fabric was the narwhal. How stinking cute is that? It's got mermaids on it too, but the narwhal is what did it for me. So I made an oven mitt. And then my good friend Tommy, who has a pottery business, she's the Pottery Wheel on Etsy. I will link her page in the description. She said, hey, you were wanting a spoon rest, right? How about we do some trading? So she said, would you make me some oven mitts? And I said, sure. So I made her a couple also. These are lined. I kind of reversed the fabrics on the inside. So the green is the main body, and then the cuff on the inside is the narwhal fabric. I put a little hanger on them to hang up. And then they're lined with cotton batting. Now, the pattern only called for one layer of cotton batting, but I decided to use a double thickness. So they're nice and thick, and then I just did some freeform quilting on them to hold the batting in place. And yes, one of my 15 dogs is a coonhound, and that's who you're hearing. That's Ellie Mae complaining about something. Probably she wants on the bed and in her spot, and someone's in it. So, yeah. Oh, here we go. Hang on just a second. Okay, now that the Hallelujah chorus is over, I'll get back to my FOs. Now, the Yarniacs podcast, which is an audio podcast that I listen to, is having a make-along that started on the winter solstice, and it runs until the spring equinox, which suits me on a lot of levels. I like that symmetry of the year, and it's called the Selfindulgent Knit-Along. And the idea is you can do any craft that's on Ravelry, so knitting, crocheting, whatever the lists are on Ravelry. I just knit and crochet. But the idea is really to make something for yourself. And so I got in on that, and I made I've got a few things. I'm trying to finish a couple more before the equinox. We'll see how I do. But one of the things that I made, because I am a child at heart and I love cuddly toys, is a Stubbo family. Haha. Okay, these are a pattern by Prince and Peddler. And if you get the pattern, you get the pattern for all three sizes, from the tiny one up to the very large one. They're very easy to make. Now, if you've never made a stuffy before, you know, they might not be what I would start with, because the scales on the, especially on the big one, are a little tricky for a beginner, but they're pretty easy to make. They're a lot of fun, and they make up really fast. I just made these in some acrylic yarn that someone had given me, and I just thought they were so cute. Aren't they adorable? So here's the little tiny guy. You little beauty. Hello. And then the medium one. Okay. And then the large one. So again, that's by Prince and Peddler, and they're on Ravelry, so you can find them there. Another thing, couple of things that I finished, and these were both for the Self-Indulgent Knit-Along, but I found one of them through the Grocery Girls Tin Can Knits Knit-Along. I made the Antler Hat, okay? And this was the first thing I've ever made for myself to keep that was out of really nice yarn. This is 100 Ravens, and it is their Epona base, which, you know, horses, Epona had to have that, right? And the colorway is called Aphrodite, okay? And it's a very beautiful tonal blue color. It's, I believe, a 75-25 superwash merino, or no, it's 100% superwash merino, I think. It's DK weight, really pretty. But anyway, and this is the Antler Hat, which is a free pattern by Tin Can Knits. Okay. Then I watch the Historian Knits podcast, and I really enjoy that. And so she had mentioned that there was a knit-along for a hat called the Shiraz Hat by Rizza Knits. And Rizza Knits is also on Ravelry. And the knit along for it ended on Valentine's Day. And I thought, can I make a hat in a week? Working full time. I did. It was a quick knit. This one's a little bit, it's a kind of a slouchy fit, which is fine. You see there the little pattern flowers or powerful women holding their fists up in protest, I guess. This yarn is by Leon Alexander Yarns out of Oklahoma. And it's a colorway called Against the Current, which I thought was perfect for this hat. Oh, there's my end. I didn't weave my end in. I know I'm bad. Sorry. Anyway, so that's the Shiraz Hat by Rizza Knits. Okay, then one of my goals, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I kind of every so often I say, I'm going to have a short-term goal for the foreseeable future. And one of my goals was to learn to knit a proper pair of socks. Now, luckily, I ran on to the Happy Knits, who is a podcaster out of Dallas area, Texas. And she had a really good tutorial on how to do toe up, 2 at a time, magic loop socks with a Flegel heel. And so I made a pair in worsted weight or DK weight yarn. Okay, now that Willie has turned over some stuff, back to my socks. And I made a pair of worsted weight socks. And then one night in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, I was watching the Knitting Expat podcast, and she was talking about her sock club. And that she was going to have a beginner-friendly sock club. So I went on and subscribed to the sock club. And this was the first sock. This is the Wanderlust Sock Club by the Knitting Expat. And this is the Resfeber, I don't know if I'm saying that right, sock. These are all travel related socks. The yarn is Purple Rain by Tesla Knits. She is I like her because she is a electrical engineering graduate student, I believe. And so you got to support those women in STEM. Yay. But anyway, so yeah, so this is my first pair of fingering weight socks, and I did okay. I was pretty happy. I need to knit with a tighter gauge because these are a little bit loose, but that's how you learn, right? You make mistakes and you learn from them. Now, my next pair of socks, because I'm trying to do this 12 pair of socks a month business. We'll see how that works out. This is the Will o' the Wisp socks by This Handmade Life, and I picked a terrible yarn choice. I picked the yarn first and then the pattern, which is probably not the best way to go about things. But if you'll see, there's a little lace pattern on here. She was doing a knit along for any pattern of her socks. She's on Instagram. It's This Handmade Life. By the end of February. So I thought, well, I need a pattern for my February socks. So I finished them. And I got through the toe, and then I decided, I need to tighten my gauge up. So, this looks kind of sloppy and bleh, and then this looks pretty okay. There's some mistakes in here. I'm still learning. I'm trying, get better every time, right? But anyway, so this is the Will o' the Wisp socks. You can kind of see the little lace pattern there. The yarn is Primrose Yarn Company, Adelaide base, and the colorway is called Pucker Up. So it's a nice Valentine's colorway, and I will put it also in the Happy Knitting podcast, is doing a knit along for Valentine's Day socks called the Hearts and Heels knit along. I'm very motivated by like deadlines, I'm not good at self-imposing them, but if there's a knit along, I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta get in on that. So I'm finding that very helpful to get things done. So there's that pair of socks. Okay, so I think that's all for my finished objects that I'm going to show you. I mean, oh no, there is one more. I'm lying. Oops. Now, I also sew, and this little pillow, oh, bless its heart. It was an unfinished object, a UFO sitting lonely in a drawer for, I've been home since 2005, and I made it before that. And if you want to know how old this is, remember when Home and Garden Television used to actually have crafting programs on it and not ridiculous makeovers that nobody can afford programs? Yeah, so that's when I started this. This is a woven top out of different fancy ribbons. Okay, you can see them there. And you weave it and then you put it on fusible interfacing. Okay, and you fuse it down and then you make a pillow. Okay, well, I had not got to the pillow making part, but I finished it. Yay, I finished it. This will never go out in the main part of my house because I have 15 or 14 dogs. God, don't they say I have 15? Another one will show up. 14 dogs and 5 cats. So this will never, ever, ever go out in the main part of my house. Ever. But I do have a room that I keep shut besides my sewing room where there is a reading chair. So I'll probably put it in there. But first, it's going in my box to enter in the county fair because I'm a little bit obsessed with entering things in the county fair. If you follow my Facebook farm page or me on Instagram, you will know this very shortly. But anyway, so this is going to go in my box of entries for the county fair. So it's got some really pretty ribbons. Oh, there's a string I need to clip off, but you can kind of see there. Okay, so that is my last FO to share with you. Sorry about that. My friend did come with my hay, so I took a minute to go put a bale of hay out for my cattle because it's starting to rain again. So another thing that I'm working on right now. Okay, some things I'm working on now are, well, as far as knitting and crocheting goes, or sewing, I have some works in progress. Now, my mother was also a sewer, as I said, and when she passed away, I was going through her sewing stuff, and we both enjoyed holidays a lot. And for those of you who are familiar with sewing are probably familiar with companies like VIP or Cranston. They make these printed panels, and they'll do little girls' dresses, or they'll do toys, or wall hangings for the holidays, or vests. And I found this Valentine's Day vest cut out, okay? It was cut out in her stuff, okay? And she had the lining also cut out. I can't find the ties for it that go on the back, but I'll figure something out. So I've got the lining put in it, and it's, as you can see, it still needs to be sewn up on the sides. And then I'm going to find some cute buttons. I've probably got some in my button stash to sew on it as a decoration. So this will be a cute little thing to wear next year for Valentine's Day. Plus also it can go in the county fair. So always thinking about that, right? So that's one of my sewing works in progress. Then I am knitting a cowl. It's the Canyon Cowl, and I forgot to look up the name of the person who wrote the pattern, but it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I will post it in the show notes. And it is a snug fitting cowl. I'm just knitting it in the round, and it's very simple, you know, very simple pattern to memorize. So it makes good road knitting or meeting knitting, or before class when I have 10 or 15 minutes before the students get there knitting. So because it's fairly mindless, because you just go around and around and around and around. I'm knitting it out of String Theory Color Works. Let's see if I can get that to focus. String Theory Color Works yarn. This is her merino cashmere nylon blend. The colorway is Ion Propulsion. All of her yarn names are scientific, which is why I love them all so much. This yarn is extremely soft because of the cashmere content. And yeah, so you can kind of see it, I hope, there. There you go. Yeah, and she is actually having a knit along. You can see I'm motivated by deadlines. That ends on March the 15th for anything made out of mostly her yarn. So I'm going to try to get this done by March the 15th. I'm going Thursday to a conference in Northwest Arkansas. We won an award. I volunteer with the local Gifted and Talented program at the middle school. I have for 8 years or 9 years. And I volunteer with actually a woman who is a good friend of mine now, but she was my junior high school English teacher, and she was the coordinator, the GT coordinator for many years, and is retired now. But she and I are riding up together, and she's going to drive, so I'm going to work on this a little bit as we drive. It's about a 2-hour drive up there, and then there'll be some time at the conference to knit. We have to do a presentation because we won an award last year, and so part of the criteria for winning the award is you have to do a presentation the next year on what your project was. So we won it again this year too. We've won it 8 years in a row. We're that good. Yay. But anyway, so I'll have time to work on that, get that finished, I hope, or get further on it. I won't get finished, but I'll get further on. Sorry about that. My friend who was supposed to bring me some hay, he showed up. That was that noise you heard at the end was my tractor starting up. So I went ahead and put a bale of hay out for my cattle. It's starting to rain again, and I've got 5 babies, new babies out there, so I wanted to get the mama cows some hay. Luckily, it hasn't been really cold here lately, so that's good. The next thing that I'm working on is, I enjoy the Grocery Girls podcast, as I'm sure a lot of people who knit do. My friend Antonia turned me on to that. So I'm making a Jody shawl, and I am just up to, I've got about half a row of my 3rd color started. So it's kind of hard to show here, but yeah. So I am up to my 3rd color, which is going to be kind of a periwinkle blue here. The blue, well, I'll just show you the blue. The blue and the gold are both Cascade yarns. So that's the blue that I'm going to be adding last, for my last color. That's the lace section. It's a pattern by Locatelli. They're doing a knit along, imagine that. But I don't think I'm going to be done by the knit along deadline, but I'm going to try, because I'm just starting the last section. So I've got about 30, I think, rows or so to go. But I'm going to try. The blue and the gold are both, like I said, Cascade yarns. I don't remember the color numbers. And the blue is in the other room tag. And then the gold is Superwash Effects color number 9. Okay, so yeah, so anyway, but the middle colorway, which I don't know if you can see that, how well you can see that. Well, let me get that out of the way. It's got some blues and some golds and some greens and burgundy in there. See? That is a yarn by Key Marie's Knit Knacks. Okay, Key Marie Knit Knacks. I believe she's in Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a 75 superwash merino, 25% nylon, and the colorway it was a dark and stormy night. Remember Snoopy and Peanuts? That's how he always started his novel that he was writing. It was a dark and stormy night, and it's going to be a dark and stormy night here, I suppose. So that's appropriate, I guess. Okay. The last whip I'm going to show you is a little bit bigger, so let me reach over here and get it. Now, I was on Pinterest, and I know people have strong feelings one way or the other about Pinterest, but I do enjoy the Pinterest. And I have jillion pins, many of which I will never make, but they all motivate me. So, anyway, I was on there, and for some reason in the middle of the night, I decided that I wanted to crochet stuffed planets. I don't know why. Why does a 40, almost 9-year-old woman need stuffed animals or stuffed planets? But, you know, hey, whatever floats my boat, right? Because I'm paying the bills, so I can do what I want. But anyway, I saw a tag or a pin for a solar system crochet along, and it was a blanket. And I thought, well, that's probably old. Well, guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't starting until January. This was back in December. And I thought, glory be, I'm going to do that. So, Two Hearts Crochet, who is on Instagram as Two Hearts Crochet. She does a lot of amigurumi of like Harry Potter and Star Wars and Star Trek. You know, it makes my science nerd heart very happy. Is doing this pattern, and each week you get a clue or a piece. It's not really a mystery because we all know what the solar system, or if you don't, you should go look it up, said the astronomy professor, looks like. So it's not a big surprise, but so we are pretty far along on it. We are out to the orbit of Pluto, and yes, she included Pluto in there because it was her decision, and that's fine. The sun's in the middle, and we've got all the orbits, and then we've got the asteroid belt is bobble stitched. And I'll kind of back up so you can see. It's touching the floor, and I'm 5'10". So we've got about 6 more rounds, I think, to go. I've started on my planets. She has been sick with the flu, so I hope you're feeling better, Alex. And we've only done a few planets, but I'll sew those on after I wash this, because frankly it smells like dog, because I sit and work on it while I'm watching Netflix or Amazon Prime in the evenings, and the dogs like to help me by laying on it, so I need to wash it before I start sewing my planets on. But I'm pretty excited about it. It's the biggest, by far the biggest thing I've ever made, and it's all mine. It's going to be mine, 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 all mine. So I'm just making it with acrylic yarn so it can be thrown in the washing machine. You know, nothing fancy. I'm sure there are other people who are doing more fancy things, but you know, I'm pretty pragmatic. I live on a farm. I have dogs and cats and lots of animals, and my house is a perpetual state of I'm trying to keep it clean so that the dust bunnies don't carry me off. Okay, so yeah, so that is one of my big works in progress. Now, this last thing I'm going to show you, I'm showing you this because I need motivation. I am stalled out on it. I don't really know why, other than I freaking hate purling. Okay, there, I said it. So take away my cool knitter card. I hate to purl, but I learned how to Norwegian purl, and that has made a huge difference to me as far as stuff goes. So I think maybe I can finish this thing. I started this last summer with big hopes of having it done by the fair. That didn't happen. Oh, I forgot to show my cute little project bags. These little bags are made by a humane society up in Northwest Arkansas called Have a Heart, I believe. Have a Heart Humane Society. There's a lady who makes them. They're just little simple, nothing fancy bags, but all the money that they make from them goes to the no-kill shelter up there. So I bought these, and they work just fine. Now, so I'm going to show you this, and maybe by sharing this, I will work on it. It is in my Tesla Knits bag. She's got an Etsy shop. It's Tesla, like Nikolai Tesla. If you don't know who that is, look it up. Nikolai Tesla. And this, oh, this won my heart over. It's the periodic table. I love the periodic table. I have an unnatural love. Well, maybe it's not unnatural, but an obsession with the periodic table. Okay. My research as an astronomer, as an astrophysicist, is about how elements are created in stars. And I saw this bag and I fell in love with it. So I had to have it. She does some Star Wars and Star Trek themed ones too. I've got one of her Star Trek ones. This is just a shawl. It's a pattern I found on Pinterest. It's just simple. So wadded up. Can't even tell what's going on. It's just simple rows of garter stitch, and then some lace sections, yarn over lace. Nothing hard, nothing, but it'll be cute for summer. You can't really see the sparkle in this yarn, I don't think, but This is another Key Marie Knits yarn. This is called Hippie Chick. But it does have sparkle in it. It's hard to tell that very well from looking at it. But anyway, so now I've shared my what is it, albatross around my neck. So I'm going to finish it. I started to frog it, and I thought, no, I'm going to finish this. Okay, so, yeah, that's some works in progress. As far as future plans go, okay, Marianne, if you're watching this, stop. I have a present that I'm going to make for you, so you need to not watch this for about 3 minutes. Okay, are you gone? Okay, good. Okay, I used to cross stitch. Made some huge things, and the other day I was in a local craft store, which I won't say who because I don't really like their politics, but they're the only show in town, so what do you do? But anyway, this was in the clearance aisle. It's a cross stitch frogs. Why frogs? Marianne, again, who's the lady with the writing program, who's basically my adopted mother, lost her youngest daughter last year, and Jessie loved frogs, and so all things frog remind Marianne of Jessie, and I saw this and I thought, okay, I can finish this by Christmas. It's February, well, it's almost March. I can finish this by Christmas, so we shall see. But anyway, so yeah, so we'll see. I'm gonna give it my best. So that's one of my future plans. I don't have the other patterns laying out here except for this one. I just have barely started this. It's the 10-gram wrap by One Dog Wolf. It's a kit that I bought from Lion Brand Yarn in some really pretty blue colors. There's 5 of them, or 4 of them. 5, 4, I don't know. I have to look. And I think I've got like the first couple of rows done. So, yeah, when I finish my Jodi, if I finish my Jodi, I will finish my Jodi. I'm going to start on this. So, that's kind of my works in progress. Yeah. I've got some sewing things that I want to get done, or my future things that I want to get done. I'll show you my stack. That pile, yeah. That is prospective things I've pulled from my sewing stuff to make for the fair. Because, yeah, I'm a little obsessed. I like to win ribbons. Plus, I like to make things. So, that's some different things that I'm going to kind of go through and look at to see what in there would fit the different categories for the fair and see what I can get made up. Okay, so we'll be back with pretties that I've bought or ran onto or were given. Okay, so here's the shoppy portion of the program. I like stuff. I have a lot of craft supplies, and I don't apologize for that. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw my video about don't be worried about your imaginary cleaning job because it's not your problem, it's my problem. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm going to show you a few things that I've acquired. This is a yarn. It's a sparkle base. It is, let's see, it is 75 superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina. This is by Key Marie Knit Knacks also. And this is a colorway called Chocolate Covered Strawberries. I couldn't decide if I wanted to use this for my Valentine's Day socks or the Pucker Up. So Pucker Up 1, because I'm going to make this into something to wear out around, not just socks. Got that at my local yarn shop, Knit Two Together. Hi, Stephanie. Great place to go. She's very helpful. Have a lot of fun sitting there visiting with them when I get to stick around for knitting. Then, Expressions Fiber Arts gets me every time. She dyes beautiful yarn, and every month, or over the last 2 months, she has done a yarn about an animal. and portions of the proceeds are donated to the World Wildlife Fund. So reel me in, take my money, all right? Last month was a colorway called Polar Bear. This month it was Snow Leopard. Okay, and this is 50% merino and 50% silk. It's called Superwash Merino Silk Pearlescent Fingering. There's some browns, some like chocolatey warm browns and golds, but there's also some like magentas and turquoise in there. Not usually my colors, but I think it's gorgeous, and it's called Snow Leopard. So how could I not have it, right? This is definitely going to be a shawl of some kind. It is extremely soft. Feels very good. And it's definitely going to be a shawl. Hadn't picked out a pattern yet, but who cares? It's pretty, and I wanted it. So, ta-da. This, you know, if you're going to order one thing, you might as well order two, right? This is another Expressions Fiber Arts. This is part of her Resilient Sock base. This is Superwash Merino. This is called Unicorn Sprinkles. So, just a lot of different pretty pastel-y colors. She's got one called Unicorn Toots too, and I want that. But we'll see. She has a sale until March 1st, so I might talk myself into it. Okay, now, okay, Etsy is the devil, because you get on there and you find all these things that you want, right? So, one of the things that I got is a new project bag, because I'm trying to be a grown-up knitter and not carry things around in grocery bags. This is by Darn Yarn MN. See if you can see that. Darn Yarn MN. Okay. From their Etsy shop, and it's just a really nice, roomy project bag. Sent a cute little card with it. And you get a coupon code when you order for a repeat customer, so it's a nice, and it's got a nice leather strappy handle. Okay, but of course, you know, constellations. Then, I found this really beautiful bag by April 9 Designs. And it is a 2 at a time sock sack. Okay, so, really super well made. I'm a sewing snob because I know how to sew, and I'm really picky. Got a cute little llama progress keeper there, and it is set up for 2 at a time socks, and in the center zippy pouch. Okay, so that's a great, and it's really, both of these bags are really well made, so you can't go wrong with either one. So they're both on Etsy. They both have Etsy shops. Now, this is not a knitting bag, but it kind of transitions me to farm life stuff. I was at the beekeeping place today, Central Beekeeper Supply. It's where I buy all my beekeeping supplies. I have 4 hives currently. I've got 2 nukes on the way this spring. Yeah, my goal is to get to about 12. And I was in there buying some things that I needed for my bees for the springtime. And a woman came up to the register with a bag. It was a canvas tote, and I thought, that's really cute. Well, I went to the back and looked at the one she had, but then I saw this one. Save the bees, save the world. It's a really nice size, big canvas tote. Now, I don't carry a purse. If I carry a wallet, I usually either have it in the pocket of my hoodie, because I wear hoodies when I'm not at work, at the paying work job, professor job, or I just carry it with a strap around my hand. But this is a nice tote size to carry things. Oh, it smells like beeswax. Anyway, nice tote size to carry things in. So I got this there, and it's canvas because I, like everybody else, like pens. And I have a lot of pens. And one of my favorite places that my friend Antonia turned me on to get pens was from, let me get her little card here, Natelle Draws Stuff. She's on Instagram. Okay, Natelle Draws Stuff. There you go. Natelle Draws Stuff. See if you can, see if that'll focus. Okay. And she loves manatees. I believe she's in Florida. And she has a pin shop, or she has a shop where she has pins among other things. And she donates part of her pins sales on particular ones to wildlife foundations. So I had to get the polar bear. Okay. And then part of it was donated to, I don't remember. And then she had a possum, and part of it was donated to the St. Francis Wildlife Association. 20% of the profits were donated to the St. Francis Wildlife Association. She has an Etsy, or no, she's not on Etsy, but she has a website. And she has tons of different cool, unique animals. So check her out. And by the way, nobody's paying me to do this. It's just stuff I like. Y'all don't like it? That's fine with me. You like it? Yay for that. Okay. Yeah. So now, quickly, farm. What's going on the farm? Let's mention the bees. Here, we'll put this back. If I don't drop it, it's got a bunch of stuff in it. Well, I am running low on hay, which is making me a little anxious, but we're starting to have grass put out. It's been rainy, like I said, but it's also been kind of not cold, and so I noticed that the grass is coming up. It's making me want to get out and work in the yard and work in the garden. I'm going to confess I'm actually not a really good vegetable gardener. I do okay. I can grow tomatoes, and I can grow peppers, which is great because I love to make salsa, but I would like to get better at other things like squash and beans and so forth. So this year I'm going to try to do better with my garden. So one of the things that I'm going to try to do is, one of my rooms is the catch-all room, and my goal this week is to get it straightened up so that I can set up my seed starting stuff in there. I want to try to do better this year about growing different varieties, like some heirloom and heritage varieties. I listened to a podcast called the Living Homegrown Podcast, and there was the episode this past Friday was a lady talking about some unusual varieties of plants that you can grow. So I made a list of some of those, and I've got my seed catalog stacked up and a list started. So I'm going to try to do that. We had a little seed swap at work the other day. And so I got a few seeds from that. The department secretary got our IT person for the College of Natural Science and Math and a couple of the other faculty members together, and we brought in seeds and we exchanged seeds. So I've got some seeds from that I want to try to start. You know, it's coming into springtime. I'm anxious to ride my horses. We've not been able to ride very much because of the weather, because it's not just rainy, it's been stormy, and so not a lot of riding's been happening, which is kind of a bummer. My filly, Trixie, my pride and joy, she is going to be 2 years old in June. I have been working with her since she was a baby, but one of the things that I want to start doing is start putting a saddle blanket on her and sitting a saddle on her. Now, I won't start seriously trying to ride her until she's at least 3 or 4 years old. That's my way. I know that a lot of people like to start them young, but I prefer to give them some time. There's tons of pictures of her on my farm page and on my Instagram. If I have time, I might insert some at the end here. I've got big plans for a couple of my mini horses. I want to break them to harness, so we'll see. Today, as I said, I went to the beekeeping store and I bought some bee food, because this time of year is one of the biggest risks of this time of year. It's warm enough that the bees are out flying around, but there's not sufficient food supply yet. So they're out expending energy and they're not really replenishing their energy. So I bought some feed for them, and I actually, before I came in, I went out and filled up all the feeders for the bees after I had fed everybody else. So hopefully that will get them off to a good start. And have a good honey crop this year. The first year I gathered honey, they did really great. And then last year was just not a good year. Apparently a lot of people did not do as well as they had the year before for whatever reason. We had a long kind of cool wet spring, and I think that impacted us negatively when it came to the honey crop. So we'll see. Now, one thing that I wanted to share with you is also on the Living Homegrown podcast. They talk about different things, like you can do like fermentation. Like I do some I've made kimchi, and I've got a ginger bug going and some kombucha, and I can talk about that stuff another day. But one of the things that anybody can do, and I do literally mean anybody, is you can make your own vanilla or mint extract. So this is my jar of vanilla extract. I just rejuvenated it yesterday. Okay, this is just a quart canning jar that somebody gave me that they had put stickers on. I don't know why, but people give me their jars, which I'm glad because I use a lot. And in here is, I believe it's 4 ounces of beans to a quart of liquid. I bought the Madagascar ethically raised, I'm trying to make sure they were ethically raised beans, and you can get grade B beans, and those are the dried ones. They are not the nice, expensive, soft ones that you can cut open and scrape the seeds. You don't need those, because all you have to do, and you can't see in here, but in here, well, maybe you can kind of see, I literally took shears, just my kitchen shears, and cut them up in about 1-inch pieces and put them in this jar. And then I went to the liquor store and bought the cheapest get drunk in college bottle of vodka that I could find and put it in here. You don't have to buy expensive vodka. The cheap vodka works just fine. 80 proof vodka, and filled it up. And then what you do is you shake it every day. You keep it in a cool, dark place. So I just keep it in my cabinet. You keep it in a cool, dark place, and after about probably, I don't know, a couple of months, you've got really good vanilla extract. And then you can just keep adding more vodka to it. I had let this get depleted because I had given a lot of it as Christmas gifts. So I kind of refreshed it and started fresh. But you can keep adding to it, and you'll have vanilla extract all year long. So it's super simple. I mean, that's literally it. It's cheap vodka and vanilla beans. How easy is that? You just got to have a little bit of patience. So you can see it's not very dark yet, but in a couple of weeks that'll be really, really dark, and it'll smell delicious. And if times get rough, you can always drink some vanilla. Okay, well, yeah, so I guess that's it for me. I hope you got something out of this. I don't know how often I will do this. I don't know if anybody's gonna even watch this, but yeah, that's me in a nutshell. So this week coming up, like I said, I have a conference that I'm going to on Thursday, and then on Saturday, me and Mrs. Hayes, my junkin' buddy, there is an auction. I love junk, and I'll probably over time share some of my junking finds with you. But if you don't know what junking is, I like to go to thrift stores or auctions and buy people's junk, and like furniture or dishes or whatever. Why? I just like them. They make me happy. So I find good stuff too. So we're going to an auction on Saturday. There's a particular piece that I'm hoping I can at least be able to bring home. I'm not going to say what it is yet because I don't want to jinx myself. But and then that's pretty much it. So hopefully we'll get to ride horses later this week, and work is going good. I've got tests and lab reports to grade, and we have a service learning project coming up pretty soon that we've got to get to work on. But yeah, so we're about halfway through we're almost to midterm, so we're about halfway through the semester, and so that's kind of where I'm at. So anyway, I hope you guys are all doing good, and hope you enjoyed this. And if you do, I guess I'll subscribe. I guess I'll do this again. And you can follow me on Instagram, or you can follow my farm Facebook page. In other words, anyway, so we'll check y'all later. Peace out.